Yeah, good morning. It's nice to see you all. I'm sad I missed the karaoke, but it's good to see you all fresh early morning here to listen to what I have prepared for you today. The topic is quality assurance of micro-credentials, and I'm so happy that I was invited to speak to you today about the quality assurance projects that we conducted at FIBA in terms of micro-credentials. My name is Christiane Butler, and I'm the Deputy Division Manager for certifications at FIBA. I will also shortly introduce FIBA to you, but then we'll jump right into the topic of micro-credentials, the quality assurance. I've also brought 3 examples of our projects for you today that I will go through very quickly, just to leave you at the end with some learnings from our procedures as well. All right, FIBA is an accreditation agency in Germany, or one of the agencies in Germany, and we are around for more than 30 years now. Our core areas of business, as you can see on the slide, is accreditation nationally and internationally, mostly in Europe and Asia. We are a member of EQAR and NCAR, and we're also officially recognized to conduct accreditation procedures in other countries like the Netherlands, Switzerland, Austria, Kazakhstan, and others. What else? Next to program accreditation and institutional accreditation, FIBA also offers certification for further education to providers. So these are programs that do not lead to an academic degree, but are on an equivalent level. And the idea of the certification is to make these programs or courses integratable into higher education or to serve as a continuation of it. All right, I'd like to start again by looking at what I think we've yesterday agreed on is the common definition for a micro-credential set forth by the European Commission. So just a quick wrap up of yesterday's conference. The European Commission defines a micro-credential as a small volume of learning, which is assessed against transparent and clearly defined standards, and it is underpinned by quality assurance following agreed upon standards. And I think this was also mentioned yesterday, but I'd just like to note here again that this definition is very open as to who is providing the micro-credential. It doesn't need to be a higher education institution necessarily. The definition is open to all kinds of providers. But, however, it needs to be underpinned by quality assurance following the agreed upon standards. So what does this mean, and which standards are we talking about? In our context, we will always base the quality assurance on 3 frameworks: the European Standards and Guidelines, the ESG, the ECTS Users Guide, and the European Qualifications Framework for Lifelong Learning. And now we will see what these 3 frameworks have to say about micro-credentials. So first, what you see here is 2 quotes from the ESG, from the European Standards and Guidelines, basically inviting institutions to recognize micro-credentials. You see here that they call for a broader access to higher education, and they call also institutions to really benefit from the different learning experiences that learners bring. So it's basically a reference to recognizing prior learning, and micro-credentials are just one possible form of that. Similarly, we see here for the ECTS Users Guide that it's also calling to invite, or it's inviting to recognize recognition of prior learning, which can be, again, micro-credentials. And last but not least, the European Qualifications Framework for Lifelong Learning, of course, is by design very supportive of various learning experiences because it includes vocational education and professional experiences. So now, in order to support higher education institutions to recognize prior learning, for example, micro-credentials, but also to integrate quality standards of higher education institutions and alternative providers, FIBA has developed the certification of continuing education courses. And this is the one that we also use for quality assurance of micro-credentials. So I'm inviting you now to follow me through a very quick run through this certification procedure. As you can see, it's by design, it's open to higher education institution and alternative providers, and was originally designed for larger learning entities, but as the same principles should apply to micro-credentials, so again, talking about the ESG, ECTS, EQF, we thought it was quite appropriate to use this for micro-credentials as well. What you see on the left are the 5 chapters or areas that are part of the certification. So let's dive in. At the very core of the certification procedure, again, are what we call the triple E, the ESG, ECTS, and the EQF. So for quality assurance of micro-credentials, what we have to check first are the learning outcomes. In particular, what we check here is if the learning outcomes are formulated in a competence-oriented manner. And then this competence-oriented description is the basis for defining the appropriate EQF level. To be able to integrate the course or the program into an academic program later, the EQF level needs to be at least 5, which then corresponds to the short cycle and the Bologna framework. Next, what we are looking at is the admission regulations, and if they are defined so that all admitted learners are basically able to achieve the intended learning outcomes. Welcome, have a seat. Third, implementation. This is about the structure and the principles of the ECTS Users Guide. And here we also check the content and the didactical methodology and whether it's leading towards the learning objectives. So here again, it's important to check the EQF level of the content and if it corresponds with the learning objectives. What is also included here is the assessments, and remember that quote from before that micro-credentials need to be assessed against clearly defined and transparent standards. So this is what we check here with assessments. And I'm also remembering this really important talk yesterday from our Australian colleague from the employer's perspective on the competence orientation of assessments. So this is what we check also here. So also from a didactical standpoint, the assessments, of course, need to fit the purpose, to assess the learning outcomes. And last but not least, what is also really important for recognizing and for the transparency of micro-credentials? Well, the credential. So here we ask all the institutions to provide what we call a certificate supplement. And this is basically the equivalent to the diploma supplement for study programs. And this is, it's a formal criteria, but this is really the crucial document for the learner to later get recognition for prior learning. Fourth, resources and services is about the staff and support services for learners. It's also about the facilities, infrastructure, or if applicable, the learning platform of the provider. And last but not least, we also have to check the quality assurance system of the institution. Okay, so now let's have a quick look at 3 examples of our certified institutions. First, we have here the Academy of the Savings Bank in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is actually the most populous federal state in Germany. You could refer to this institution as a corporate academy. So they offer their trainings and courses like the banking specialist or the banking economist to their employees. Historically, they've been doing that. And now they have this new strategy where they open up their courses to non-Sparkassen employees, and also wanting to link their educational programs to higher education, which they have done through the certification. As a next example, you might already be familiar with Coursera. We had a great keynote yesterday from Andy Poole from Coursera. So the quality assurance projects we conducted here regard the professional certificates, which is one of the formats of a broad catalog of courses that Coursera offers. And the professional certificates, there is around 45 or more than 45 of professional certificates offered with partners like IBM, Google, Microsoft. And it's a course concept from Coursera, where Coursera provides the conceptual framework, and then the partner would deliver the respective content within that framework. Yeah, and the interesting thing about it is that without any prior knowledge or college degree, learners can get quickly job-ready skills in entry-level digital jobs, like in cybersecurity, data analytics, marketing, and so on. As a third example for today, you see here the University of Augsburg, which provides further training to support the idea of lifelong learning. So this institution actually has defined further education or further training and knowledge transfer as a third pillar in their strategic plan. And for that, they have created the Center for Continuing Education and Knowledge Transfer. And within that, they offer various courses about management, leadership, also legal training, and now sustainability, and many, many more. So only 3 examples, but you can see already 3 very different institutions. We saw a corporate academy, a company listed on the stock exchange, and a higher education institution, all with a very different offering of courses. So for the certification, they all needed to fit the EQAR regime. So I think it's time now I let you in on some of the challenges we encountered during the procedures. Starting with scientific rigor. So the quality assurance process is a peer review process. And our expert team always consists of at least 2 members from academia, 1 professional expert, and 1 student representative. And we encountered challenges when the expert team had to assess programs that do not follow academic principles. So the experts, from their perspectives, when they assess, they were always expecting scientific work in the courses, according to Bologna. So we had to support them to take the perspective of the European qualifications framework, which encompasses higher education and vocational education, and again, is fully competitive with the Bologna framework. Compatible, not competitive, compatible. Yeah, another challenge we encountered is the scope of the qualification, of the quality assurance process. Because following the 3 E's, the triple E, ESG, ECTS, EQF, it's comparable to the scope of accrediting a whole study program. So if you look at a course that has 5 ECTS credits, you might imagine that not all of the criteria in this catalog might be applicable. So think about interdisciplinarity or internationality or again academic work. These criteria might just not be applicable during the procedure. Another challenge is actually the duration of the certification period, which we have defined to be 5 years. And within these 5 years, if there are substantial changes in the course, they need to be reassessed. But within very small learning entities, even small changes can be substantial. So this might actually hampering the flexibility to adjust changes. Another challenge was to find common ground when it comes to different institutional and legal backgrounds in terms of communication and legislation policies. So I'm not talking across borders, but also across the worlds of academia and the world of corporates. Just to give you one example, in one context, we speak about study and exam regulations, and in the other, we'd rather refer to general terms and conditions. Also, when it comes to companies listed on the stock exchange, there are, of course, restrictions when it comes to public and non-public information and information about internal strategic processes. And as you know, EQAR requires us to publish all of our reports. So that was another challenge. But let's also talk about some of these successes. So with the certification, the institutions were able to implement resources, tools and processes to meet the ESG and the ECTS standards, of course also within the EQF. They were able to maintain transparent and correct communication about the ECTS credit recommendation, and they were even able to establish cooperations or collaborations with higher education institutions for a flat rate recognition of their courses for full academic study programs. And with that, they helped their learners to link their certificates or micro-credentials to recognition of prior learning. And with that, also to simplify the integration of certificates or micro-credentials into their own individual educational biographies. Okay, so this was already a quick glance at the FIBA approach when it comes to the quality assurance of micro-credentials. I hope we've all seen that we can operate within the EQAR regime and use common and shared standards to apply for micro-credentials. And in sum, I'd just like to leave you with that last thought that it's not rocket science. Just remember the EEE, the ESG, ECTF, and the EQF. And now I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.